Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED, AM and FM this weekend, March 21st and 22nd. Pete Belcastro, one of the real estate guys with you. Joe Brett's got the day off from us. But hey, welcome to spring has sprung here in the Rogue Valley. And what better way to talk about things happening in spring, I suppose, in the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District, one of our terrific sponsors here on the Real Estate Show and partners. And well, you know, as we get into this another dry season, boy, isn't the JSWCD becoming more and more important in our life? That's really an interesting evolution kind of thing, because water becomes more important to us all. The efforts of the JSWCD, Ashley Parrott, become more important to us all. Urban and rural living, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, darling. I'm sorry, darling. There you go.
We all need water.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
Yeah. Anyway, so we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of issues facing real estate throughout Jackson and Josephine County. And again, water is certainly our topic today, and it's a pretty appropriate topic. With us to talk about it is Brian Barr, who is the executive director now of the Rogue River Watershed Council. So, Brian, first time on the Real Estate Show. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Pete.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
So tell me, just before we get started, the Rogue River Watershed Council is a combination now, combined, because wasn't there something like about 10 or 11 watershed councils, I think, in the two counties, something like that at one time?
Yeah, correct. Throughout the Rogue Basin.
Yeah.
So from Crater Lake down to Gold Beach, there were 9 different watershed councils.
Yeah, so I wasn't that far off.
You were not far off at all. Good math. And we combined 4 of those councils.
All right.
Stream Restoration Alliance, which is in the Grants Pass area, with the Little Butte Creek and Bear Creek Watershed Councils, and then also the Upper Rogue Watershed Association.
So all those kind of things combined together.
Correct.
Into one group.
Absolutely.
Which probably makes sense, does it? I mean, talking into that thing, does that?
Talk into this thing. Yes, it makes sense. Absolutely. All of those different councils were doing roughly the same sorts of activities, but spending a lot more time on administrating and coming up with programs and not putting as much of their effort on the ground, just because they all had the same administrative burden.
The same thing, yeah.
Now we've got the same single administrative burden, and we're able to spread more of our money out to reach landowners and put projects on the ground.
And do a better job. It's very similar to the Soil and Water Conservation District here, because there were, I believe, 3 councils at that time in 2006 that combined into the current form that it is. And it's obviously more effective, and there's no question about that. That's really kind of cool to see.
Absolutely, following their lead, and we're partnering directly with the Soil and Water Conservation District to leverage all of our technical capability. SWCD working on soil and water conservation, the Watershed Council working on fish and wildlife habitat restoration.
Yeah. Now, when I was a kid, a long time ago, understand it, when I was a kid, I heard of soil and water conservation districts. They had been around since the 30s. But watershed councils was kind of a new thing is it a new thing that sprung up somewhere along the line here? How did that go? The answer is going to go. Steve Mason's going to answer that question, who is our third guest here. Steve is not new to the Real Estate Show, because he's also the director of the WISE project that we've had on our show. Remember the WISE, which is water for irrigation, industry, streams, and the economy.
There you go.
Anyway, so welcome, Steve. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, like I say, I never really heard much of watershed councils, even when I was doing my news days back, in the day. But so, what's sprung with this?
They started in the late '80s, early '90s, and it was a grassroots effort working with the state to try and get a way to help restore the coho. Was actually the factor that brought everything together. Okay. And so it's a grassroots thing. They formed early on, I think it was in 40 watershed councils throughout the state. The high they got up to is around 84. And working with the state agency that's most closely involved with this, OWEB, which is the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, recently they've been asked, based on their future funding, to try and get that number a little bit smaller, around 64.
Okay. So to bring it down, because if I remember it right, didn't the Oregon legislature appropriate some funds to get the watershed councils kind of moving? I don't know how many sessions ago, but not very long ago.
It's been going on for a long. OWEB's been around. It was called the GWEB or early on, the Governor's Watershed
There's some lottery funding for watershed councils.
That's exactly what it is. It's a lottery funded thing, and the funds go merit based to the watershed councils for the work they do on the ground.
Okay, because I'm a lottery retailer in another life, and I would see this watershed council. I didn't know what that was. So that's where that goes.
That's where that goes.
Is where the money comes from to do that. Well, that's kind of cool. So, all right, well, fellas, and Ashley. Just before we get going here, what is our situation? I mean, here we are, spring is like this weekend, and can you tell us what our water situation is going to be like this summer, where we stand here in March? Because it looks like, to me, it's pretty darn bleak.
We didn't really have a winter.
Yeah, we didn't have much of a winter. We didn't get very much snow. And so this is third hand. But Travis Kelly, the Jackson County Watermaster, came to the Watershed Council and gave a brief update. And basically, for the water year that we're in now, starts in October, we got about 90% of the precipitation. So we're 90% of average. But we have less than 10% of the snow water content in our snow. We just don't have any snow.
No snow.
So even though it seems like we had a little bit of water, and on early February we had a lot, it's a very, very going to be a very dry summer.
Is it worse than last year? I mean, are you guys saying you're anticipating worse conditions?
From a precipitation standpoint, it's relatively the same.
Right.
But the reservoir carryover is worse than it was at the beginning of last year. So it's going to be worse.
Yeah.
And, I think the snowpack, sorry to interrupt, but the snowpack factors in absolutely because that snowpack in an ordinary year would sustain us through the spring, keep flows in the streams, and recharge those reservoirs. That water's just not going to come off the side of the hill this year. We're not going to get very much.
It's not there.
So what is it? I mean, what do you tell people? What do you tell landowners, farmers, irrigators? What I mean, watershed councils. I mean, I know you don't do the same things to this thing, but what in the world's going to happen here?
Well, they come talk to Brian at the Watershed Council. They come talk to the Jackson Solid Water Conservation District because there's a lot of things you can do on your property to help you as well as help the watershed.
Yeah, everything that you do on your property not only contributes to what you have available for yourself, but it also, any water storage that you do, any water catchment, that contributes to the available water that's for other people as well, because you don't need it as much. So
I suppose it's stretching it out, though. I mean, that is not going to. It's just a trickle of what is even used, I suppose.
At this point, you have to just get every drop that you can.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen to us. It's going to be a long and hot and dry summer, isn't it? I mean, I hope in the world we get a lot of rain and more rain in April and in May.
Yeah,
and sometimes that happens, but it hasn't been cold. It just
but again,
hasn't been cold.
Those are very flashy events. Our streams move that water very quickly. It's that snowpack that we're missing, and that's how you can tell if you're going to have a bad year on storage is based on the snowpack.
All right, so we're going to all brace for this, and it's going to be a long one. Well, I tell you, with a lot of rural properties and lots of people, irrigating, and it's what happens with that?
To put a positive spin on it, the groups are here and the people are here working on this. We did it last year. As bad as it was last year, industry and fish made it through the work of the people in this room here, and that's going to continue again. It's that stewardship. It's working together with these partnerships, such as the one between the Watershed Council and the SWCD, that really do make a difference. And the water quality, the less water you have, the more important water quality is, as well as what you can do on your farm with that water.
It's going to be an interesting.
Absolutely. I think everything we did last year, we need to implement again and think about lessons learned and implement those as well. Because you're right, the pinch is going to be on. But as Steve said, folks and fish made it through the summer last year. We can make it through this year. We're just going to have to come out of the gate thinking conservation and efficiency.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, the most interesting part was that at Ashland, for example, where I live, Reeder Reservoir was full at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
And who would have thought? I mean, people cut back. You can cut back that much, and we're going to have to do that, obviously, again. Well, turning back our conversation to watershed councils and stuff, what would, Brian, why would someone care about what a watershed council does for us? If I live in the city or I don't live in a rural area and own, a big ranch and big acreages, and this is kind of front and center for me, why is the work you do important in our valley?
Well, so I'm going to start with, we live in a really beautiful place. We're very fortunate to live in one of the most, in my opinion, beautiful places in the United States, if not the world. It's a beautiful place that we're surrounded by a watershed and a landscape that is tremendous, and it supports a couple of runs of fish. I'm a fisheries biologist. It supports a couple of runs of fish that are pretty unique and interesting and factor to a large degree into the economy of the area. So if for only those reasons, I think everybody should care about the health of the watershed, because that watershed health sustains those critters, and it also provides drinking water for a pretty large proportion of the folks that live in the Rogue Valley. Everybody in Grants Pass, everybody served by the Medford Water Commission in the summer at least, gets a pretty large chunk of their water from the Rogue River.
From the surface water.
From the surface water,
That's
right.
out there, not the groundwater. There's a difference in there.
Not from the ground. There's a lot of groundwater that goes to Medford Water Commission too. Absolutely.
The reason I say that, I've been taking my principal brokers testing, and that's one of the big issues is groundwater, surface water. Who owns the water as it comes through your property? And certainly as water becomes tighter, people are going to, you guys ditch some water, those kind of things.
And you don't really, you don't have to own a big parcel of land or be in the rural area for water to affect you. The Bear Creek runs through the center of our town. The watershed is relevant to everybody that's here. And you're whether you're in the city and you're a renter or an owner, you need water and you need to conserve it. So,
what are the projects that you've done in the watershed councils that have actually, you'd be really proud of to show anybody, Brian, if we were on video here, that you'd say, this is something that really did improve what we're all about?
Pete,
share with
no, absolutely. We've been around for 2.5 months. So,
the new council.
I'm not going to say we haven't done anything except get our house in order. We've merged a bunch of folks and a bunch of existing programs, and what we're really trying to do is answer the question in the reverse that you just asked. What are the things that we can do that we can be proud of and that people in our sort of service territory, for lack of a better word, would be proud of? But it's going to be improving the quality of the water in the Rogue River and the tributaries. It's going to be making sure that runs of fish are on the upswing so that people don't drive from Medford to Lost Creek Dam to see spawning salmon. There are salmon spawning in Bear Creek in the town of Medford, and people just don't know about it. So
they're just.
And I was going to say real quick, a simple example that does lead to your earlier question: why would someone living in the city care? One of the Bear Creek Watershed Council, which is now part of the Rogue River Watershed Council, did a project very easy to get to. It's on Larson Creek on Ellendale, where it crosses over the creek. You can look right there, and now the fish can swim through the culvert. Until this project was put in, it was a partnership with the Watershed Council and the city. The fish couldn't get through there. So they could make it about a quarter mile upstream, and then they were stuck. Now with the project that the council put in, they can make it all the way up through the stream. So you should see steelhead and some coho spawning in the middle of Quail Point Golf Course.
In the middle of Medford.
Absolutely.
Which is nothing wrong with that, is there?
Absolutely.
Well, that's kind of good. That's kind of a good thing to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was some other work done there, some floodplain expansion, which helps with property protection, protects property against erosion. And it was an opportunity to show how a healthy stream works and how that can work in conjunction with a commercial property and development of the bike path, as well as development of some of the manor property. So you can do what you need to do on your property as long as you think ahead and work with the rules that you have to do with working on a stream.
Does it add cost much to this? Because I know I've seen different Jackson Soil Water District projects, engineers that have, over the few years we've been doing this, and they show examples, of ranches or farms before and after, where runoff was this and after it's different, and the kinds of things. I know that you're after, Steve, in the WISE project of being more efficient and use water. Does that help streams too? It takes water out, but it leaves more in the stream? Is that how that works?
Yeah, and good projects should be cost effective as well as effective for the stream as well. Everything should help the economy. So if you're managing your property well, you should recognize it in your pocketbook. It's not just about the stream, it's about you as well. And so if you come up with the right project, you'll recognize it in your pocketbook.
That's really a good thing, is you want to be able to do that. And
But it's not easy. And to do that, you got to talk to the experts, which isn't me. It's these people over here.
Well, we was talking about that, in our show, that each year, a quarter of all real estate sales in Jackson and Josephine County are classified as rural sales. They're not, they're all sorts of 5 acres and whatever, up and whatever. But it sure seems that they all have an issue of water. And that's 500 new people a year. Many from, as guests on our show tell us, they're coming from California. And if California's in the mess that there may be more coming up our direction and stuff like this. So we put them in rural properties. Brian, they really they don't know what they're doing.
None of us
really don't.
None of us knew what we were doing, and it's a good point, Pete. And here's the deal. a lot of us I'm a rural landowner as well. I live just outside of Gold Hill on the Rogue River. We do things to manage our properties that don't work with the way that the natural system works.
Okay.
So you implement some idea that you have, and the river does what the river is going to do with that idea.
Despite what you think you want.
Despite what you think.
My God, you're going to do it this way.
So here's a case in point of the point that Steve was making before, which is how can you realize savings in your pocketbook? We have the technical experts that can help you figure out how to implement that project in a way that's going to work with the way that the river is going to do things, and so you're not going to have to go in and keep fixing it.
And landowners who do this really are appreciative, aren't they? They really see results. I mean, that's what I hear from
Absolutely.
From them.
It makes their property generally more beautiful, and it helps them with sea fish.
But what else does it do? It makes their property more valuable.
Absolutely.
They've enhanced the value of their property, which is what you want to do when you own something.
Sure.
I mean, I would certainly think.
And there's funding help to be had.
And there's funding and help to do that, to make it there. Well, the Real Estate Show got a break coming up here. We're with Brian Barr and Steve Mason of the Rogue River Watershed Council, Ashley Parrott from the JSWCD. We're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED, AM and FM this weekend of March 21st and 22nd, the first days of spring of 2015. Aren't we really ahead? Think about that. The Pear Blossom Run is the second weekend of April. And usually, that's when the blossoms are out. But man, isn't it? It's beautiful right now. Here we are, spring, Ashley Parrott, and it's beautiful.
I opened my back door and I heard this low rumble, and I thought, a plane is landing on top of my house. There are hundreds of bees pollinating my cherry blossom tree in the backyard.
Really? Wow.
Hundreds.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It's just early this year.
Yeah, everything is early, that's for sure. We've learned so far today from our guest, Brian Barr, and Steve Mason from the Rogue River Watershed Council. They've combined a number of councils into one group, which maximizes efficiency. And in a year like this, they're going to be pretty busy. So I'm sure that next year when you come in here, Brian, you're going to have some good stories to tell of how you survived the summer of 2015.
Yeah, I sure hope I survive, so I'm back next year.
Yeah, but you guys got a lot of people, a lot of interest in property owners. Then we'll move on. But property owners that you see and visit with, are they into this? Do they see that this is an important thing in their properties and in their relationship with their land?
Absolutely. I don't think there's been anybody that's worked on a project where they've enhanced habitat that's been to their benefit as well that hasn't walked away feeling really good about it.
Yeah, that's really good, because I know woodland owners that we've talked to who've managed their properties. And again, it's always about enhancing the value of your property and being good stewards. And that's what you propose.
That's what we do.
And real quick, just to point out that the watershed councils are strictly a voluntary participation. So if you want to do something on your property, talk to the watershed council. They'll help you do that
before you do it, right? I mean, that would be the thing.
Absolutely,
you got to do it before you go out there with your
and they'll bring resources to your property and help you out.
We'll help you figure it out.
Yeah. If you have an idea, come to us. We're housed with the Soil and Water Conservation District in Central Point, 89 Alder Street, or you can get a hold of me with via email at, hang on to your hats for this one, BBARRRR. That's 4 R's. WC@gmail.com.
Google the Rogue River Watershed Council, and
or you can go
be easier to find, or go to the JSWCD Council.
.org.
Well, and good luck with that. Now, Steve Mason's here also. Steve's been on our show with the WISE Project, both here on our cable show. The WISE Project, 20 seconds is what? Just to tell people again, bring them up to date what your baby is, or what this is.
The simplest way to describe it is modernizing the irrigation infrastructure here in the valley for the 35,000 acres that we serve. And we're looking at piping all the open canals, using all that saved water for extended drought protection for years like this, provide pressure to the farm. People won't have to pay for electricity, generate power, make more water available from the Rogue River through Lost Creek. Mm-hmm. So it's just to more effectively and efficiently use the water we have, and to improve the streams for the fish, to improve recreation at the reservoirs for everybody, and then make the irrigation more reliable and available.
For agriculture use and things like that, for our rural economy there.
I heard savings, and savings in
Lots
that statement.
Yeah, I heard win in that statement too, because I mean it's well, we live in an arid place, and it seems like our realization now, if climate is whatever it's doing, that we had better be prepared for our future. And this seems to be the project that would kind of secure that water future for us.
Yeah, and we often forget about the E in the word WISE, which is the economy. But ag is a huge part of the economy here in the Rogue Valley.
And growing and getting bigger.
And continuing to grow, getting numbers from the SWCD. I believe 2 years ago, the crop gate value was over $70 million. When you expand that out with processing and fuel, you're talking $400 million for the county. It's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And we want to not only protect that, we want to make sure that agriculture stays here in the valley. We want to make it stronger and more profitable so that the people here can enjoy a better lifestyle.
And agriculture, rural, is really changing, don't you think? I mean,
absolutely. Drive around, there's vineyards everywhere.
You talked about pears having an early spring, which means they would ripe earlier in case water shut off earlier. Yeah. That's kind of the only positive thing I've heard.
It's the only positive thing I know right now. It is nice having that. It does, with some of the pear production, it does help if it comes early, if the season has to get shut off early.
Yeah. So where do you, I mean, you've got some money. Where do you stand with the WISE project? I know it's
it's a federal project. So a project like that, you have to go through a process called the feasibility study and NEPA. We're in the beginning of that process. We'll finish sometime at the end of next year. It's a public process. There will be a point sometime in early 2016 where the document will go out. People get a chance to review it, make official comments. Mm-hmm. We'll have some meetings. People can come in and say, hey, this is awesome, or man, you're stupid, you suck, whatever they want to say. And we'll record all that. And then we'll take those, we'll incorporate that. And by the end of 2016, we should have the complete feasibility study and NEPA work, which means we can then go directly into design and permitting and hopefully begin construction as early as the end of 2017.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty quick.
That's the optimistic version. That's the optimistic version, but it's the timeline we're on right now.
So, well, good luck with that. As you know, I think it's one of the most exciting projects that I've ever seen, just because of what it can do and how efficient it can make things. People have issues about wildlife, water, and things like that, and those should be addressed. I mean, at some point along the way as well, because isn't that right? That's one of the Watershed Council's things about wildlife. Isn't wildlife included, or part of the thing that you guys talk about is also wildlife and habitat and those kinds of things?
Yeah, really. The fish and wildlife angle is an important one that the Watershed Councils play. We try to let folks understand why doing things that help support and benefit fish and wildlife can also be a good investment for a landowner. But we are really pretty focused on making sure that people understand that connection and then do the sorts of stewardship activities that lead to improving conditions for fish and water quality. Yeah,
sometimes when going rural properties, or you show them, you'll see some people love to have animals on their property and it's wide open, and others have these humongous deer fences around their property that don't let animals in. Deer fences are not one of my favorite things, but anyway, I mean, it's really, everybody has their own life in their rural property, and that's what it's about, isn't it? I mean, it's having those different chances and opportunities there to do that.
Well, and in one office, you have the experts that can help you with that. So, there are people in our office who help plan and design these projects so that it incorporates the wildlife habitat as well.
All right, since I've got you all here in a captive audience, I gotta. Since we're talking about rural properties and water and irrigation, the kinds of things, and water and watersheds and things, our agriculture community is changing rapidly. You said, Steve, look all the vineyards that are out there, and there absolutely are, and more of them probably coming. We're changing the GMO free status of our county is going to take hold. I mean, it certainly is right now. I certainly have met people who've coming here for that. The legalization of marijuana is probably the most interesting effect of rural properties that we're going to have in our state, and the use of water that goes with this, and everything else.
And fertilizer and pollution.
That it brings in runoffs and stuff. How are you all, in your capacities, preparing for this thing? I ask everybody, are you preparing for the legalization of marijuana? Because it's not only is it that, it's hemp growing. They can grow hemp now, the stalks and the way it used to be, and we're changing here, and I'm curious as to what your opinions are.
We were just.
I'm sure you talked about this.
We were just talking about it amongst ourselves in the office, and I know with Jackson Soil and Water, we're in a very finite place because we are a tax district, but it is not a federally legal opportunity. So we fall in an area where that's a very dangerous area for us, because we can't promote Even though it promotes stewardship,
that's kind of, you got to deal with it. It's the reality on the ground. It doesn't matter where it comes from or anything. The district and the council, to come in. Someone's got to deal with this because it's going to be an issue in real estate when we go to sell properties. Brian.
I haven't really thought about it directly. Here's the deal. It'll be interesting to see if it increases the amount of water taken out of streams to irrigate those crops. I don't know if that's going to be the case. If it is, then it becomes a little bit of a pinch point because, that water is important for agriculture for sure. We also, from my perspective,
it could be illegal use. I mean, legal use versus illegal use is a whole different
and that's the gray area.
I'm concerned of the illegal use of it because it seems that that's going to be a problem.
And what the water is being used for. So if you're using a well to irrigate, there's very strict limitations on how much and what you can do with it. If you're using surface water, what you can do with that. So I think there's going to be a lot of education needed for people who think, I'm just going to start doing it.
And the experts will need education.
Well, whatever happens July 1st, things really change around our valley and our state.
It's going to be a whole new ball game.
Whole new ball game, really. Where the Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED. One more segment to go. We're with Brian Barr and Steve Mason from the Rogue River Watershed Council and Ashley Parrott of the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. Here on the Real Estate Show. Don't you dare go away. We're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED, March 21st and 22nd, 2015. Pete Belcastro with you. Hey, thanks for making the Real Estate Show part of every weekend here on KMED now for, this is coming up on 6 years. The show will be July the 1st will be our 6th year here with you on KMED. That's a lot of talking. That's a lot of stuff about real estate. Look at all the things we've learned together, our listeners. I mean, our listeners of our show are pretty well informed on kind of what's going on in the real estate world around it. And I do want to just say that the cool thing happened to our show. The National Association of Realtors gave a $4,000 grant to the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors to be part of our real estate show. So for the next year. So we're excited about that, having them,
that's awesome.
RVAR come on and all that kind of world that is out there. The whole, as you know, the real estate business is a huge, huge economic impact. You talk about economic impact in our valley, as you know. We're today with Brian Barr and Steve Mason from the Rogue River Watershed Council and Ashley Parrott from the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District on the show. Next week, we'll have a RE/MAX Market Watch update for you here. Bob Gervais will be along and we'll update you on the market around. Well, here in our last segment, Ashley, I got to tell you, I was amazed to see, the districts help sponsor a chemical return and 10,000 pounds of herbicides and old stuff was brought in. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, agricultural use pesticides. It was the first ever event in our area of that nature, and it allowed people to bring in stuff that's been sitting on their properties and they have no way to dispose of. And we collected 10,585 pounds of outlawed or aged or no longer in use pesticides, herbicides, chemicals, fertilizers, and got them away from our streams and off of our soil.
I can imagine what some of those things must have been in those
DDT.
containers.
We had some DDT. I wasn't even alive when that was invented.
Yeah, well, it's lucky you didn't take it, be around it anyway. All right, what else? The districts, what else you got coming up that people need to know about? Because I know the camps are coming, classes are still going, and what else you got cooking?
Well, we have our annual Forest and Range Day Camp. That happens every year, and that's an opportunity for kids who are going into 5th through 7th grades to get out in the land, who don't normally get to get their hands wet or dirty, who don't see fish or llamas or irrigations, or they don't have that experience. The average age of the traditional farmer is increasing, and less young people are in the business. So it's an opportunity for only $50. You can send your kid out for 5 full days, and every day you're on a different site, a different location, learning something new. There's a streamside cleanup event. So Bear Creek is huge, and the Solve event is coming up April 18th. We'll be out there cleaning up the Bear from 8 to noon, and that's a huge event, putting that work out. We have rain garden classes, streamside gardening classes coming up. Our pasture management course is booked to the max. It's been full every Thursday night. And it's just more and more people are out there finding out how they can put stewardship on the ground. How can they improve their land and their environment and their pocketbook all at the same time?
Yeah, I like one of the coolest projects that I know is out there is it's the restoration of the woodlands, the original woodland. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, Oak Habitat Restoration.
Oak Habitat, yeah.
RCPP. Absolutely. That was sponsored by Lomacotzi. And there is $3.1 million for Oak Habitat Restoration, focusing at the lower Table Rock area as well as the Colstein. So it's it's really important that we have those woodlands out there. And as more urbanization happens, people are encroaching on those forest lands. They're encroaching on those woodlands. There's defensible space issues that are happening. And so there's a lot of money out there right now. We were
I think
supportive of that.
Wouldn't the Watershed Council want to be involved in something like that, project like that, the oak restoring natural features and natural land? Is that something that the councils because water would play a role in those areas? I would assume too.
It's absolutely a possibility. What we really have to do as this new merged council is look at the expertise that we have on our staff, what we might be willing to develop, but we have to look around and see the expertise that's around us. So I'm not going to say absolutely yes, Pete, it's something we get involved in, because there are lots of people who know what they're doing in the woodlands. I'm a fisheries biologist, so.
But that's what's great about being in the same office is we have Natural Resource Conservation Service there. We have the Rogue River Watershed Council. We have Jackson Soil. So we've got streams and forests and soil and water, and we're all right there in one office. And if you need an expert, we got that. That's what we do. If you need information, we do that.
Look at the changes just in streams around our valley in the last 5 years. Gold Ray Dam, gone, right? Savage Rapids Dam, gone. You said there in Larson Creek, culvert blockage, gone. The dam at Bear Creek in Medford, right? What's that one there right downtown? It's gone. Jackson, they're gone. Other stuff, I know there's probably tons of other things that are out there. So it sounds that we're really making improvement. Is that, or is there still a long way to go to get flowing? Tell me.
So here, I don't want to overly focus on fish passage and dams, but it's one of the things that I've been doing. I've lived in the valley for 15 years, and I've worked on it a lot.
You're an expert on it. Okay.
So a while ago, Steve put together a list of dams in the Rogue Basin. I think that thing came out. You were working on it in around 1999. There's 1,100 structures on that list.
No kidding.
There's 1,100 structers on that list.
Really?
Not counting the ones in the national forest, the federally owned lands.
Right. So
wait. Second. I got rid of that talk. 1,100 structures that are still across streams and things in the valley.
That are blocking fish.
Blocking?
Yes.
Correct.
And okay, all right.
But we've made progress, right?
Okay.
And a bunch of the big ones are out. So here's the success story, hearkening back to a question you asked earlier. What's something you can be proud of?
Okay.
Stream Restoration Alliance has looked at a single creek, Jones Creek, which runs through the east side of Grants Pass.
Okay.
They did some monitoring. They were looking at how many steelhead came out of that creek every spring. Thousands of fish, a couple thousand fish, maybe 1,000 fish. They've systematically worked their way up the creek. They've removed 6 or 7 of those fish passage barriers. There's another 2 on the slate that are going to be removed this summer. Now their monitoring is showing tens of thousands of steelhead coming out of that creek every year.
Really?
So order of magnitude greater production of steelhead. This is what enhancing fish passage does for these creeks.
And those things, and those blockages are not needed anymore. I mean, you need them for nothing.
And I saw a study came out a couple years ago. Recreation on the Rogue is over $250 million a year. That's the 3 counties. But there's a lot of people that come to this river to spend money that ends up in our economy.
No, absolutely true. Well, we're going to be out of time. So, Brian Barr, good luck to you in your new world there, the Rogue River Watershed Council. You got a good guy because Steve was on your board with you, so you got some good guidance there as well.
Absolutely.
So it's really exciting stuff that you're doing. So you can Google Rogue River Watershed Council and you can get a hold of them because you guys can obviously help them. JSWCD, Ashley, a lot going on. I guess we'll
keep your eye out for that day camp. You want to get your kids in that day camp. It filled up last year so fast. It's June 22nd through 26th.
And even if you don't have kids, your grandkids or kids your neighbor's kids, it is the coolest camp. I wish I had something like that when I was growing up. It's really cool. I love it. Anyway, that's going to do it for the Real Estate Show here on the first weekend of spring. Hope you have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you, Steve and Ashley and Brian, for being with us. We'll be back next week right here on KMED with another edition of the Real Estate Show. This show repeats 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. You can watch our shows online at realestateshowOregon.com. I'm Pete Belcastro. Have a great week and God bless everybody.
Thank you for listening to the original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Ticor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only original real estate show.